Okay, we're going to discuss in this video something which I'm afraid is a little bit boring but extremely important for you budding newbies in the SQL arena. We're going to talk about the architecture of SQL Server. Well, having said that, part of the architecture. What we're going to talk about on this one is the system databases. So with whatever version of SQL Server you're using, 2000, 2005, 2008 or Azure, each one of those versions of SQL Server will have a series of system databases, and what we're going to discuss on this video is what they all do and why do we need them and what would happen if one of them goes wrong. Well, what we've got is I've already started up the management studio and I've just gone onto my server here and I've expanded databases. So what I've got is this system databases folder, which is what I'm going to just purely talk about in this video. So I'm going to expand that. And we've got 4 distinctly different databases. So at the end of this video, you're going to understand what the differences are between them all. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put them in order of priority. Which ones are more important? It's a bit of a funny one because they are all equally important, but some are more than others. So, for example, the big beastie boy of them all is the first one, which is known as master. Now, master database is basically the whole of SQL Server. So, for example, everything that I'm seeing here, all of these different folders, management, replication, server objects and so forth, all stem from this master. For example, you start up SQL Server, how does it know which databases are available on your box? Well, this is all actually stored in the master database. So, put it this way, if the master database became corrupt, you would not be able to use any database in your system. So let's just expand master and see what's in there. Now, all I would say is be careful where you tread. You can't really do too much damage, not unless you really purposely go out of your way. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some of the stored procedures and so forth, just so you can see how it all ticks. So in here, tables, if I expand, as you can see, there are no tables. For example, in AdventureWorks, if I expand tables, I get all these tables on here because these are all the user-defined ones. But in Master, there are no user-defined ones, and nor should there be. What you should have is a series of system tables. But if you're looking at different versions, I'm on 2008 here, you may find that when you expand system tables, there's a lot more to show than what I've got on the screen. Now, the reason for this is Microsoft decided that you shouldn't be playing around with the actual tables, i.e., should I open this up and then try to fiddle with it, I could really screw up the system. So as you can see, when I right click here, I don't have things like open table anymore. They're basically they're gone. I mean, if I do select top 1000 rows, there you go. I mean, that just shows me 3 rows. Great. What can I do with them? Not a great deal. That's all to do with replication, which we'll talk about on another video. But the key thing here is that there's only a series of tables that you can look at, whereas on, say, 2000, if you look at this, there will be a whole plethora of them. Now, the reason why this has been done is Microsoft said, well, if you're going to look at these tables, you won't be editing or inserting values into them, you'd only be viewing them. So if you go to views, you'll see that there's a system views section, and when I expand this, as you can see, there's quite a few different system views we can look at. So what I'm looking for in particular is I'm just going to scroll down this list until I get to the SYS, and I should see one called, there it is, sys database. So I'm just going to delete everything there, just drag and drop that into my query window and do select star from sys databases. And what have I got? Well, let's just bring this up a little bit. You can see that I've got master, temp DB, model, MSDB. These are the system ones we've just been briefly talking about, but I've got these other ones as well. Well, let me just collapse the hierarchy here just so we can see everything. There's our 4 there, and as you can see, there's AdventureWorks, DW 2000. I won't go on to save time, but as you can see, all 11 databases are being stored here. So if you needed a script to work out how many databases are on the server, you could use one of these system views to do it. So what have we learned? The key thing here is that the master database purely controls how the SQL Server reacts, i.e. it shows you what databases are on the system. that's just one element. Another element is a series of the commands that you're used to using. If you've done any SQL, for example, attach database, detach database, these are all stored in the master database. So if I now go to programmability and go to system stored procedures, you'll see again there's loads to look at, but as you can see there's add login, add publication, add role. If you're familiar with SQL Server at all, some of these may be actually sending home. There's attach database, for example, and that's a command they tell you to actually use at the command prompt. Attach DB. So if I just try to run that on its own, it would then say, hang on, it's expecting a database name, file format, and so forth. So all these commands are stored in master DB. Now, the reason I'm spending so much time on master is it's the most important of the lot. So have a play around with it, have a look, and if you have any questions, you know where I am, so you can go and post them away. But imagine what would happen if the master database disappeared. You would lose everything. The databases will be able to be attached into another installation of it, but it's very important to back up your master database from time to time. So what's the second one on the list? Well, the second one really, I would say, is MSDB, the Microsoft database. So what's different about MSDB versus master? Well, again, if I expand, I do have a series of system tables, but a lot more to look at. Now, what can I do? Well, let's just look at sysjobs. I can just open that up. Now what that's doing is the MSDB is telling me now on this particular sysjobs table what jobs are running in the SQL agent, which is sitting down here, the SQL Server agent. So we've just learned something very important here. The SQL Server agent sits inside the MSDB. So a good example of why you would back up MSDB is if you've got a series of SQL Server agent jobs running, like backup, re-indexing, truncating tables, etc., and you've got them on a regular routine, all that bit of information is actually stored within the MSDB database. Another key one for you budding BI people out there is that if you deploy your SSIS packages, they would actually be stored in the MSDB database. Again, another important reason why you would store it. Not only does it just store what the managerial options are inside SQL Server, you will find that there's a load of other commands. I've just gone into the stored procedures, where I can see pretty much day-to-day commands you would do on a database. Most of these though are for the management, so this is like you can see SSIS is in there, the SQL agent, and so on and so on, sending emails. So this is more of the management day-to-day routine tasks that you would do. The commands that are powered in SQL Server are within this MSDB database. Again, should you touch it? No, you should never touch it. However, again, there are certain views that you may want to look at which could be of use. For example, look at all the views which are on the all the jobs which are on the system. So they're the two important ones. They're the mega important ones. Now we go on to the other ones which aren't as important. The third one, in my opinion, and it's only an opinion here, is Temp DB. Now, you may have heard the term caching and execution plans, etc., etc. What tends to happen is when you run a script, it remembers the execution plan, and sometimes if you run a script, it takes say 10 minutes to run, but this time it only takes 2 minutes to run when you run it about 2 seconds later. The reason being is it's all been stored in the cache, and that's what the Temp DB is all about. Now, if you do a lot of temporary tables and so forth, Temp DB is where those temporary table data goes. So Temp DB does tend to get a bit on the big side. So quite a lot of DBAs actually put the Temp DB on a completely separate drive to the other databases. The reason being is it gives it room to grow and collapse accordingly. So in Temp DB there's not a great deal to actually play around with, but again you will see there are system views, and by all means have a look and see what you can find in there. But in my experience, 10 years, Temp DB I only look at in form of making smaller, or changing the location of where the Temp DB is. I never touch any of the views. So then finally we come to the last one, which is the least important of the four, again in my opinion, which is the model database. Simply put, this is a template. So whatever I put inside the model database. Any new databases will have it. So for example, let me just quickly make a new table, and let's just put in ID, and that's it. I'm going to save the table, and I'm just going to call it PC Teach Me. And with that done, if I now just create a new database, and OK that, what I will find is once it's created, you'll see that inside here now I will automatically have that table already done. So model is just purely a way of having a template of your most common stored procedures and tables inside there. So with that done, I hope that's helped you out. Thanks for watching.